Hey, what if the biggest spiritual danger in our lives is distraction? And what if those distractions aren't what you think they are? Hey, just being so busy, so focused on business, responsibilities, everything that you've got in front of you. So much so that you slowly pay attention to what isn't most important. Hey, that's what we're talking about. Stick around for the next few minutes together.
This is the Franchise Pitfalls and Profits Show. Each week, we bring you the challenges and triumphs of being in the franchise development and consulting business. The things you need to make money faster. And now your host, one of the most successful franchise developers in North America, Don Shin.
Hey, welcome back to Franchise Pitfalls and Profits. Hey, this show's about the real mechanics of growth, the real mechanics of owning a business. It's how to build your business the right way, how to avoid the mistakes that I know are out there, the pitfalls that are out there that quietly stall your business and quietly stall most good businesses. And we like to talk about creating strong systems, strong architecture that can actually be scaled upon. So, hey, that's what Franchise Pitfalls and Profits is all about. Hey, but today I'm going to go a little bit deeper than just business, because what I spend a lot of time talking about is growth, talk a lot about leadership, talk a lot about scaling, talk a lot about building. Honestly, there is a deeper question underneath all of this. And it is, what if we become so productive, really productive in life, but we are now spiritually distracted? What if we've gotten so good at managing businesses, schedules, responsibilities, but we don't have time for what's important? We've quietly lost a sense of urgency around our faith journey, again, around our spirituality, around God. Jesus had some very direct things to say about that, and I think they are more relevant today than ever before. And so, whether you're a believer in God or not, there's going to be some really, really practical stuff to take away here today. So I hope that you stick in it with me for a few more minutes. Hey, let me be honest. I have felt this tension myself. My days can fill up quickly. I've got meetings, I've got calls, I've got client needs. I'm working on things for clients. I'm preparing for a call or a meeting. I'm writing. I'm leading a nonprofit. I'm following up on sales stuff. None of these things are necessarily bad in and of themselves, but many of them are indeed meaningful. They're important to a degree, but what I've started to realize is that it's completely possible to be doing good things, productive things, things of value, and still be drifting spiritually, drifting in your spirituality, drifting in your faith walk if you're a follower. It's not because you've rejected anything, and it's not because your faith and your spiritual walk doesn't matter. If I would ask you, you'd say, yeah, Don, it does. But what happens is life gets really crowded. And when life gets crowded, faith often quietly becomes compartmentalized, or it's done as an afterthought, or it's done after everything else is done. And you might, like me, stay on the fact that it's important, but it's just starting to move to the edge. It's starting to move to your margins, where just when you have time to fit it in, it's not first in our lives. And Jesus was very, very clear about that. He was very direct about that. He warned us about that. So I think we understand this. I think we're busy, and I think for many of us, life feels really full. If I would ask you, you could give me a thumbs up emoji there. You've got business pressures and financial pressures, and you got kids or maybe grandkids. You've got deadlines to meet. You've got planning to do. You've got the next thing. You've got the next decision to make. And before long, we just become really good at managing all of these things while giving very little attention or real focus to our walk with God, which is the first and should be center of our lives. We still believe, we still care about this. We would still, again, say it's important. We may still attend church, or most of the time anyway, but the urgency fades. The visibility fades. The regular, making it the regular part of our life fades or stops. Faith slowly becomes a private thing, contained, personal, instead of an active, visible, living, abundant life. I'm not saying there isn't a private and personal component to it. I'm not saying that. But there's a lot of folks believe today that that's all you need to do. I'll just keep it private. I'll put it over here on this shelf. I'll get at it when I get a chance. And it might start to feel normal, and that's why I'm raising the flag. I'm bringing attention to this matter. When it starts to be normal, when it starts to be common doesn't always mean healthy. Normal in this sense does not necessarily mean it's good. And again, Jesus actually addressed that exact tension. So let me talk about what God indeed was actually saying. It's in Luke 14. He tells us the story of a great banquet. And being transparent, this is one of the parables of Jesus that I didn't always understand myself. A man is preparing a huge feast, and he sends out invitations. Everything is ready. He's saying, come to my party, come to my feast, come to my banquet. But the invited guests begin to make excuses. One says he's got to buy a field, or he's bought a field, so he needs to tend to it. Another says he's bought some oxen, some animals he's got to tend to. Another says I think he's gotten married, or he's got some family responsibilities. And what's striking is none of these excuses in and of themselves necessarily sound bad or sound terrible. Well, I think when you really look at them, they maybe feel a little petty, but they sound ordinary. They sound like life. They sound like business. They sound like they have responsibilities. They sound like things that people do every day, but they are missing the invitation, not because they've openly rejected it, but because something else has their attention. When something else has their attention, it's called a distraction. Then later in Luke 17, Jesus gives us another warning that I just wanted to flag. This one is about the days of Noah, the ark, and it rains and so on. People were eating, people were drinking, people were marrying, people were merry. And in the days of Lot, the days of Gomorrah, Sodom and Gomorrah, they were buying, they were selling, they were planting, they were building, they were doing business. What does that sound like? Again, normal life, not weird, not extreme, regular life, regular business activities, moving, busy, building. And Jesus says that they weren't paying attention to what mattered most. To me, that's sobering, because the wasn't watch out for the obvious evil coming, or watch out for the obvious things that are going to happen. The warning was, don't become so absorbed in normal life that you stop paying attention to God, that you stop paying attention to what matters. And here's where this matters, I think, even more. Jesus didn't save us so faith would stay private. That is not what he taught. He didn't invite us to mentally agree with him and then, tuck it away somewhere in a pocket or in a drawer, or like I said before, put it somewhere on a shelf. He calls us to follow him. He calls us to do it daily. He calls us to be visible, to actually live like he matters, to actually make him first. Matthew 6:33. To be people whose faith shows up in how we work, and how we speak, in how we lead, in how we treat people, in how we prioritize, in how we spend our time and our resources. Faith was never meant to be boxed into half a day, once a week on Sundays. It was always meant to shape everyday life. So here's a question I want to leave with you. Have you become busy? Have you become productive? Have you become responsible, but quietly lost your urgency around what matters, your urgency around your faith walk, around your spirituality? Have you accepted the invitation, but you stopped actively following? Has faith suddenly gotten very private, compartmentalized, secondary? If someone watched your everyday life, your conversations, the way you conduct business, your calendar, your priorities, your bank accounts, would they see evidence that Jesus is central, that Jesus is the first thing you seek? Or are they just going to see that you're mostly just busy? I'm not judging. Remember, I have been there. That's invitation, because Jesus is still calling us. He is still inviting. He is still asking our whole hearts, for us to commit our whole hearts. And for some of you people listening, maybe you have never truly responded to that invitation. I really appreciate you staying with me here, and willing to lean in to talking about prioritizing versus being so busy. You maybe know of God, but you don't know God. Maybe you respect faith, maybe you don't. That's a whole nother podcast. But I get it if you have had a bad experience with a Christian, or you've had a bad church experience. But I don't want you to miss the man in Jesus Christ. And if you've never personally surrendered your life to him, I'm asking you today to do that. And for those of you who already have, then I'm encouraging you to reassess what your priorities are. So if you already believe and you're honest, see if your urgency has faded, see if your visibility has faded. Maybe it's time to get back in the game. So I think this matters really deeply right now, because the world doesn't need more invisible Christians. The world really needs more visible Christians. The world does not need louder Christians. The world doesn't need compartmentalized faith. It needs believers who are real and are living it, that God is not a side category. Visible, integrated into their lives, they're present. People who lead differently, they carry peace. They speak well, they speak the truth. They're not condemning, they're not judging. They operate their businesses with purpose. They make decisions with conviction. Businesses on purpose. Surveys have been, and studies have been going on for several years now about how people want to do business with someone that has a greater purpose beyond making money in that business. And I think the world really needs people that live in a way that clearly says that Jesus matters here too, on your sales calls, in your leadership meetings, at home, with the family, in ordinary life, everywhere. Because the invitation from Jesus was never just believe and you can privately kind of do it your own way. The invitation was always, has been, and is today to follow me. Don't forget that getting so busy living your life can allow you to quietly drift spiritually and miss what matters most. So hey, I appreciate you. I thank you for listening. If you've liked the episode, please like it. Please drop a comment. Please subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. We'll really, really appreciate you. And stick around, and I'll see you next week.